It's so awkward, dude. It's so awkward. Just how do people do that, like, so naturally? It's always really awkward for me to just sit and start and talk to a phone screen because I really wish that I was talking to you in person about these sort of things, but so. Why is it so awkward? Loosen up, guy. Come on now. So, if you know anything about me, you do know, who knows, honestly. If you know anything about me, you know that I love photography. But please, before you make a predisposed judgment, I'm not the same type of photography lover that these film bros are, I promise you. Mine comes from a deep love of the history of photography and the artwork that brings generations together or pulls them apart. If you've also been following me for a while, you know that in 2020, I think, I released my first book titled Melancholy that was shot over a span of 4 years in Savannah, Georgia, about the local disparities between low-income housing and the higher-income housing developments being put into people of color's communities and everything, basically gentrification. Since moving to New York, however, I've always wanted to work on a project that encapsulates what it's like to live in New York. And as times have grown more and more extreme and individualism has been on the rise, I feel as if a lot of us kind of forget that there are human beings and people just like us that we walk past every single day that have different circumstances. And I think that in general, most of us are pretty lost in our own worlds now. And we hardly ever take the time to notice something outside of our own scope. And we definitely never take the time to slow down and notice the things that we pass by on a day-to-day basis. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, that's a wonderful question. You should ask more of those more often, because then I can give you the answer. The answer is because I have come up with the title of my latest project called Souls in an Urban Landscape. Theoretically, I started shooting this project as soon as we moved to New York. Any of the photos that I've taken since living here are going to be used for this project. However, it hasn't been until last week that I have come up with an overarching theme of which way I want to take this project. With that being said, I would love to show you some of the first iterations of photos that I took last Thursday. Last Thursday, I started off on East 125th Street in Harlem. And from there, I walked the whole duration of Manhattan, all the way down to the very tip. I made some pit stops in between, which added to the mileage count, but in all, I walked over 20 miles on Thursday. Just photographing people, photographing things that caught my eye, and photographing things that I felt best encapsulated my project. And I'd love to take you on this journey. I think that as time moves forward with this project, I'm going to be kind of showcasing a lot more of that process online in general. Just because I find that I'm drawn to things like that. I love seeing artists' processes and how they think, and you know, where they were at with their process at kind of like a chronological order. And so this first video is going to be just about that past Thursday. My next video is going to be about what inspires me to create these images and the artists that I've looked up to. I did put a couple of them in the introduction of this video. Photographers like Edward Bertinsky, Fred Herzog, Vivian Meyer, Robert Frank, and then of course other artists like Edward Hopper have all had a very impactful kind of persuasion over the types of media that I consume and the type of media that I want to put out. So, with that being said, here is the first look at souls in an urban landscape. Now, I don't know if there are any other fellow photographers watching this or street photographers or anything like that. If there are, you'll have to let me know if this is the case for you. If not, it's just a me thing. But every time I start to shoot, I kind of have to warm up into it just because, I don't know, it's like going into a game without warming up your body first. I'm just not, like, my synapses of creativity are not flowing as much when I first start. Like, I haven't entered the creativity flow state, and so I didn't get as many photographs up on the Upper East Side as I think that I would have liked. Also, it was kind of early. It was like, I think like 10 a.m. when I started, and it was a Thursday, so it's not like it was crazy busy, and there just wasn't as much going on as I think that I would have liked. So I'll have to give it another go on like a Friday or a Saturday or something like that. But so from 125th Street, I was, you know, I took the train up there, so it dropped me off, and I think it's about 2 or 3 blocks away from Central Park. And I wasn't really paying attention to a map or anything like that. I didn't have my maps going, so I was just kind of walking around, honestly, just kind of aimlessly. And before I knew it, I was on 63rd Street, and I knew that I wanted to shoot in Central Park, and so I was kind of like, oh shoot, I gotta take a right at some point and head into the park. During that process, I got pooped on by a bird, so that's phenomenal, guys. That's really good. I'm so proud of us. Hey, let's put it to us. Right in the hair, right on the camera. That was fantastic. But cleaned off the bird shit off of my head and headed into the park. And at this point, I had already been walking around for, I think, an hour or two, so I was starting to feel it. First round of photographs, I like them. I think that they have some good qualities to them. One of my favorite ones is the gentleman in the wheelchair that I passed by. My style of photography is very much so in the shadows. I don't like to be super disruptive, and I like to be as quiet as possible. I still like to get in people's faces, but I kind of make it seem like an accident that I'm in their faces, and the cameras that I shoot with are relatively quiet. Sometimes I do get caught, but that's okay. It's just the name of the game. Another thing that I really like to do is shoot from a lower angle. I'm very tall. I'm 6'3", and so if I have the camera up here or up here, it's very obvious, one. And number two, I like to give my subjects a better sense of power. I'm shooting something from above. It's very intentional because I want the feeling of power to be had on my subjects, and when I take it away from them and place it above them, it's very, very intentional. And so most of my photographs you'll see I shoot from my hip, and so a lot of the times I'm not even looking at what I'm shooting. I'm just kind of hoping that I get it in frame, which is kind of tedious. I don't like to sit there and interrupt what people have going on in their day-to-day lives. I like to be in and out. I don't like to disrupt people. I like to just see life for how it is. And it can be kind of challenging and a little bit intimidating, but I think that as time goes on, you'll see. So I head into Central Park here. I kind of chilled here for a little bit, just kind of recollected myself. I was starting to get some blisters already, which was not a good sign because I knew I had a lot more shooting in me. Got around Central Park, which, unpopular opinion, maybe not. I didn't really enjoy shooting in Central Park that much. Everybody looks the same, it's all just tourists. There's my beautiful wife and our cat. I didn't really enjoy shooting in Central Park that much. Everybody looks the same. Everybody dresses the same. It's a lot of tourists, a lot of shorts and tight t-shirts, sunglasses and sunscreen. Once in a while you get those interesting characters, which is kind of like what I'm looking for. And those small pockets of like discovery that people have, or a beautiful scenic photo, and I'm all for that. But I didn't spend too much time in Central Park, and I definitely didn't spend as much time in Central Park as I thought that I was going to. From Central Park, I knew that I could walk down to the Empire State Building. I'm very familiar with that route, so I just went all the way down to Bryant Square Park, which is where I got most of my photos for the day. That whole strip right there is filled with a bunch of corporate, greedy people, as well as a lot of different characters that kind of just peruse the streets in that area. And so this is where I got most of my work. This is also the portion of the city where I feel like there is a good enough amount of disparity between classes that I'm trying to focus on in the souls of the urban landscape. There are so many things that people pass by, including other people, that they don't even pay attention to and kind of just disregard as trash. And this sense of individualism is super apparent in this area. There's tourists, there's businessmen and women, there are unfortunately a considerable amount of homeless people that are struggling with mental health crises, and they just totally get ignored, and nobody helps them. And as much as I wish that I could help them physically, I'm 24 years old, I'm broke, I have no money. The only thing that I can do to help, truly, is to try and shed some light on the fact that these are still somebody's sons and daughters, and this used to be somebody's friend, and we are all just the same. And so this is where I did a majority of my shooting. So I hope that you like these photos. After walking from the Empire State Building to Washington Square Park, I made my way over to Do Not Feed Alligators and then walked down to the Freedom Towers. I haven't done a lot of shooting over in the Freedom Tower area, and this was my first time getting some good photos of that spot. After that, I walked down to the very southernmost tip of the island, and then from there, made my way back up to Chinatown. And along the way, I was able to get some really good photos of people and the things that I'm looking for souls in an urban landscape. And here's some more. Now, from the lowest point in Manhattan, I walked all the way back up to the Upper East Side and into Chinatown. And Chinatown is known for being street photographer central. There's a lot of projects that are done in Chinatown, and that's really just because of the beautiful colors and the sense of community that is within Chinatown. One of the most beautiful things about Chinatown is the community and the amount of things that are happening around that area of the city. There's just an abundance of things to photograph, different scenes and ways of life that you don't really get to see anywhere else in the city. And so with that in mind, I shot around Chinatown for a little bit. I didn't want to spend too much time as it was getting kind of later in the day. At this point it was about 4 o'clock and I had been walking now for over 15 miles. So here are some photographs from Chinatown that I really like. Chinatown was really the last place that I wanted to check out for the day. I had already done enough walking and I was honestly just really tired. Really, this is it for the video. This is the first sneak peek at Souls in an Urban Landscape. I'm really excited to be sharing more of this process with everyone, and like I said, I wish that I was able to do this in person and talk about it in person, but this is the next best thing. This project is going to end up meaning a lot to me, just the same way that Melancholy did. Both of them are kind of slow burners, but it's given me a spark to be more creative and share more of my creative process on a day-to-day basis. And it makes me feel like I can share that process with you and kind of give some guidance into being more creative with your life. So yeah, I put some organizations in the video that I'm going to link down below, as well as some links to my own personal portfolio. I think really the biggest thing that I want to try and do more of is get video footage of me going out and shooting. It's just really hard when you're doing everything by yourself. You know, you want to set up the video and make sure that it looks good, but it takes away from your ability to stay in the moment as a photographer. So we'll find something. I'll find a way. If you are a New York City based photographer and you'd like to go out and shoot around sometime, please just let me know. I like doing that stuff with friends every once in a while, even though most of the time I'm by myself. I know this video is pretty different than what you're used to, and you're probably going to be seeing a little bit more of something like this more often. I'm trying to make this part of my life a little bit more finely curated to the creative aspect that I bring to my life on a day-to-day basis. And I'm trying to share that just because I feel like it allows me to be a little bit more vulnerable. So I really appreciate you for sticking around if you watch this video. And if you feel so inclined to check out some of my other work, please do. And let me know what you think. Till then, keep moving forward, and I'll see you later.